For a state with such a small population, Wyoming has a big place in human history. As an example, let's look at suffrage, the movement for women to be allowed to vote. Although in the 1860s the concept of women voting in elections was being talked about all over the world, it was Wyoming that was the first to make suffrage a reality. In 1864, soldiers stationed at Fort Bridger discovered flakes of gold in a stream flowing near the South Pass of the Wind River Range. They, of course, named the stream Gold Creek, and in so doing, brought about the use of the G word for the South Pass area. By 1866, rumors of gold were reaching would-be miners in California and the eastern states, and by 1867, folks were laying out the plots for South Pass City. It's hard to imagine it now, but South Pass City was one of the largest communities in the territory of Wyoming. In fact, almost overnight, South Pass City grew into a major metropolis in the soon-to-be territory of Wyoming. It's hard to imagine it now, but there were 3,000 people living here. And it was actually even bigger than that. There were a couple of theater communities. Miner's Delight was the name of one of them, and of course Atlantic City, which still exists today. Those two, combined with this, gave this area, the South Pass of Wyoming, a community of 6,000 people. That's almost the size of the town of Lander. In fact, John Campbell, Wyoming's first territorial governor, actually considered making South Pass City the state capital. He decided to go with Cheyenne as it had easier access via the railroad. Relations between the White tribe and the Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho were very tense, to say the least, in the late 1860s. After all, Red Cloud had just won a war against the United States, having pushed the Army out of the Powder River Basin and away from the Bozeman Trail. However, Fort Stambaugh, Camp Auger, and Chief Washakee's Eastern Shoshone warriors gave the South Pass area a sense of being a safe enclave for white miners and their families to settle. It was in this environment that the new idea began to take hold. There was a saloon keeper named William Bright. He got himself elected to the brand new territorial legislature. Now, William Bright was maybe not the poster child for equality. In fact, he was a Southern racist who didn't like the way the Civil War had gone. However, he did agree with his next door neighbor, Miss Esther Hobart Morris, that women had a right to vote. In fact, he was on record as having said, "My wife's smarter than most of the politicians I've met." So, when William Bright got down to Cheyenne to talk about what laws needed to be passed, suffrage was at the top of the list. The law read, "Every woman of 21 years of age residing in the territory may at every election beholden under the laws thereof cast her vote." The bill then went further to give women the right to hold office as well. This law passed, and in December of 1870, Louisa Swain of Laramie was the first woman in the United States to vote. 21 years later, when Wyoming became a state, we reaffirmed that law. When the territory was offered statehood in 1890, Wyoming accepted only under the condition that women in our state would be allowed to vote. It would actually be another 30 years, in 1920, before women were given the vote nationally with the 19th Amendment. Wyoming then went on to have the distinction of electing the first all-female town council in Jackson in 1920 and the first female governor, Nellie Ross, in 1924. Governor Ross would then go on to serve as the director of the U.S. Mint for the Roosevelt, Truman, and Eisenhower administrations. At the time of this writing, Liz Cheney serves Wyoming in the U.S. House of Representatives, and Cynthia Lummis serves the state in the Senate, making 2/3 of Wyoming's federal delegates female. Suffrage wasn't a Wyoming idea. The whole world was thinking women have the right to vote. In fact, Utah became the second territory to do it just a few months after Wyoming did. However, the whole world and Utah weren't first. Wyoming was first, and it began right here in South Pass.
Yeah.